This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Stick around to hear more about the discount that they are providing to the entire upper echelon community. And I can't possibly think of a better sponsor for this one because, well, you'll see. It's no secret that big tech has too much power. For evidence of this, look no further than Facebook when it banned political advertisements from being served on its platform by Senator Elizabeth Warren, running for president at the time, because they were aimed at, get this, breaking up the big tech monopolies that govern our day-to-day information flow. That's pretty on the nose. A senator wants to break up the existing vice of control, and Facebook bans that politician from getting her message out, thereby helping to cement that very same control through oppressive and censorious means. Really, it's no secret, and it's almost to be expected at this point. Also, I was aware of that in real time when it happened, but something I was not aware of, and something I find to be even more egregious, is the recent ban of Signal ads by Facebook, once again, which were aimed at targeting Facebook users with, quite literally, the most honest advertising possible. So what does that even mean? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, but first we need to know what Signal is. Signal is a cross-platform centralized encrypted messaging service which can easily be compared to WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or WeChat, whatever it is, but lacks the highly entrenched data harvesting systems that its competition seem to have fully embraced. Full send, like they really have leaned into that part. Signal is developed by a non-profit organization and is funded by donations almost exclusively. So the typical framework of a data scraping, profit-driven technology company isn't actually there, at least not in the same capacity. And the result of that is a messaging app that knows next to nothing about you personally, which in my eyes is exactly how it should be. Alright, before going further, I have to beat the drum once again of data protection because in the modern online world, it's not a concept that will ever exist without rigorous effort. If you want to have your data spread to the corners of the earth for monetizable and even nefarious purposes, be my guest, but for anyone who doesn't want that, Surfshark is the answer. Surfshark is a VPN virtual private network with a number of separate uses. One, it can bypass regional censorship simply by flipping your geographic location. On top of that, it will help you bypass region-specific licensing contracts, which will mean greater access to larger amounts of online video content for sites like Netflix. And even more, you can protect yourself from the data harvesting tactics of technology companies all around the globe. These are just a few of the options when it comes to a VPN, and I will admit I was just using it the other day for reasons relating to cryptocurrency, though I won't go any more in depth than that, if you know what I mean. I'm happy to say that Surfshark is offering 83% off and 3 full months free if you click the link down below and use promo code Echelon. Again, that's 83% off and 3 full months free using the link down below and code Echelon. Big thank you to them for sponsoring the channel. Now, that's probably the best possible sponsor for today's video, but even so, the ad-free format will be available on the Upper Echelon Locals page for monthly supporters, which is linked down below, so check that out. Just shameless plug there. Messaging apps, social media pages, and whatever else we find ourselves logging into for the sake of digital socialization on a day-to-day basis should not be collecting all of our information and then monetizing it. That practice might be legal, technically, but just because it is, strictly speaking, within the confines of our existing legal system, doesn't make it moral, ethical, or good. Signal runs against that grain, at least somewhat, partially, and thus competes directly with sites like Facebook, and more specifically their Messenger app, that's the important one, in terms of user adoption, retention, and bottom line, profit potential. Well, just about a week ago, Signal decided to run the most transparent advertising they possibly could in an effort to highlight why their data policies are superior and more desirable when compared to Facebook. The framework was pretty simple. Use the advertising features provided by Facebook themselves, to anyone basically, to make a rudimentary one-sentence promotion, or 2 or 3 sentences, but really small, just like a small paragraph, but then hyper-target that promotion to a specific group of people in a way that showcased just how much Facebook knows about them and why that should be alarming. Here's a couple of examples that showcase what these ads ended up looking like. Quote, and this is an actual ad served to an actual person as far as I can tell. Quote, "You got this ad because you're a teacher, but more importantly, you're a Leo and single. This ad used your location to see you're in Moscow. You like to support sketch comedy, and this ad thinks you do drag." End quote. Another one, quote, "You got this ad because you're a GP with a master's in art history, also divorced. This ad used your location to see you're in London. Your online activity shows that you've been getting into boxing, and you're probably getting there on your new motorcycle." End quote. Yet another. "You got this ad because you're a newlywed Pilates instructor and you're cartoon crazy. This ad used your location to see that you're in La Jolla, you're into parenting blogs, and thinking about LGBTQ adoption." End quote. The list goes on because these ads were able to use functions that are available to everyone, anyone with $5 and a credit card that is, in order to hyper-target specific demographics using all of the information that Facebook has at their disposal. At its core, this was an impressively executed advertising campaign aimed at showing exactly what happens behind the scenes, and for some people, it won't be shocking at all, namely anyone who has ever run a series of Facebook advertisements, which I have personally in the past for different merchandise products. But for others, this would have been a startling look at just how much of your life is collected and monetized by social media platforms. But here's the thing, that's not even the most troubling part of all this. Sure, it's strange as all hell to have an ad pop up that says, this ad thinks you do drag because a social media algorithm or computer program determined habitual patterns that indicate that kind of activity, or at least suggest that you would be interested in it to this computer program, or however they do it. I'm not entirely sure, I haven't seen the specifics, obviously, but what's even worse, by far, is that Facebook actually banned these campaigns from running. Signal did not violate the terms of service for Facebook advertising, at least not as far as I can tell. I have checked and rechecked time and time again. Signal did not break any sort of agreement or terms of service and violate policies in a way that justifies their account being suspended and their ads taken down, but that is exactly what Facebook did. Within hours, and before a lot of the ads could even be served to their targets, Facebook had restricted and nullified these campaigns because they were, to the very letter, being honest. Facebook is fine collecting this information, they are fine selling this information to literally anyone with a couple of dollars and giving them access to your feed, but if you tell those people who have had their information collected and sold what it is and how you got it, you will be immediately shut down. There are a multitude of stories and claims that Facebook's algorithm was able to predict sexuality before the users even publicly came out or even knew for themselves. There's been a great deal of analysis done on the fact that likes can be used to extrapolate intimate secrets, such as drug use, sexuality, again, political beliefs, and much, much more. One of the researchers, Michael Kosinski, I believe, said that users would be spooked by these findings, definitively, and outright called for governmental regulation. Putting this in perspective, there is a nearly 90% chance that the computer algorithms employed by the platform can predict sexuality regardless of any public or explicit disclosure. And that information is then sold and profited from. But if someone puts an ad together that tells you the information that they have, it gets immediately cleansed because it very well may disrupt the passive, pliable, easily controlled user base and ecosystem. All of this creates a very real question of what information and how much, especially, should be gathered and sold. Some people might enjoy customized and personalized content in their feed as a result of the algorithmic process. Others might hate the idea that a computer is actively learning things and extrapolating things based on content that you did not share publicly, or maybe didn't even explicitly acknowledge or say, and then selling it to anyone with a credit card. But one thing remains true in all this. Facebook gathers obscene amounts of personal, identifiable information, sells it to anyone in the world as a demographic packet, if you will, but will actively seek to hide the fact that they possess and sell all of that information, banning even the most honest advertisements I have ever seen in my life, purely because they stated simple demographic facts that Facebook sold them the ability to access. Advertising is highly lucrative. That's just a stone cold fact in the modern age, and companies will continue to pay a very high premium for the ability to look into our daily lives, especially online. But even if you find yourself in agreement with that, and some people do, it should be alarming that Facebook would deplatform a series of campaigns despite no actual terms of service violation that I could find. Again, this is a bit subjective. I'm not a legal expert, so combing through the terms of service agreements and all the different stuff, the disclaimers, etc., TOS, I couldn't find anything, so maybe they did, but it didn't seem like it. But anyways, simply because it highlighted what the system is, that's why they got banned, so it seems, with too much accuracy, that should be troubling to everyone. It might sound like this video itself is just one giant advertisement for Signal, but that's not really the case. I would say with confidence that Signal is probably better in every way, shape, and form when compared to Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or WeChat, especially those ones. And it's also well documented that users will have a directly negative correlation between personal mood/emotions and how long they spend on Facebook each day. But the real subject here is banning someone from simply stating that they know about your users after they bought that information from you about your users, because you don't want anyone to know just how invasive your platform really is and how easily they sell out what they know. Obviously, there's a pretty easy deflection here, which will probably sound something like this. Well, of course Facebook banned the ads, because if not, then competitors could simply run campaigns on their site and steal their business and their users. And yes, that's true. It makes sense in a lot of different ways, but in a world where technology moves faster than ever before and new territory is effectively uncovered almost daily, the individual issues and how to spin them should matter less and less, while the underlying framework, that is why it's an issue in the first place, should be our main focus. Now, Facebook has publicly fired back at Signal in the aftermath of all this, claiming that the whole thing was a stunt and that Signal never intended to actually advertise, only to create a scandal and capitalize on publicity. And if that was their goal, it worked. Signal responded with a clear-cut statement that the screenshots were real, that the ads did run and resulted in termination, after which Facebook spokesperson Joe Osborne claimed that the screenshots were from early March, not May, that the account was not terminated, the ads were never rejected, and could have run without issue. He stated that the only short-term suspension was for an unrelated payment issue, which sounds pretty cookie-cutter when big tech is trying to say, we didn't do anything wrong, unrelated payment issue. Like, I swear I've heard that before. And that the entire thing is just manufactured by Signal for the purpose of viral marketing. It's difficult to know what's what because a massive, overtly manipulative and greedy company that harvests far more information about its users than should ever be considered ethical or moral or standard or allowed at all, but they got called out by another company, which seems not as bad, but who actually knows, and in the end, they are competing with one another, so at the highest corporate level imaginable, it's turned into a giant game of, no, you're the liar, no, you're the liar, so who actually knows at this point? Bottom line, those ads, if they did run, Facebook staunchly maintains otherwise currently, were incredibly transparent when it comes to just how creepy and invasive these data collection methods truly are, especially the parameters by which they gather these things. Even if they didn't run, you can open a Facebook advertising account right now, pretty much anyone can, and see everything that they offer for yourself without even purchasing the final package. And once you do that, the bell cannot be unrung because more so than ever before, collecting and selling access to our innermost thoughts, even stuff we don't acknowledge publicly or even tell the algorithm and it just extrapolates and interprets it for us, scraped and processed from social media feeds, is a lucrative and expanding business model, responsible for hundreds of billions, even trillions of dollars in profit. But that's it. If you want to support, please check out Odyssey. It's a YouTube platform alternative based on the Library crypto network, which means better policies and superior treatment of all their creators, so it's much more beneficial for me if you watch on that platform. Also Locals, $5 a month for ad-free versions and audio podcast versions as well of all the videos, and a way to help support the channel in a much more stable way. Surfshark, of course, protect your data. Another gaming YouTuber to check out and subscribe to. Merch, social media, go figure, though I use it less and less these days, and some other stuff as well, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.